Okay, hi guys, it's Jessa, and we are back with another video regarding my book, Burden of Divinity. So today we are going to do a little bit of a lore video, so we're just going to go over kind of like the basics on what you need to know for like the world building. So this is going to revolve around the creatures, their classifications, how the divinity became the divinity, stuff like that, which I already touched on in a previous video, but this will kind of go a little bit more in depth, maybe. So the place that the story takes place in is called Divinaterra, and it is comprised of 5 kingdoms, which is Mons, Sylvae, Enonis, Mare, and Divite. Yeah, I think that's 5. I didn't fall on my fingers. But anyway, so it was formed after the Divine War, and so each of the kingdoms kind of fell into like where all the different creatures kind of ended up. So Mare is mostly like the merfolk, the sirens, your water sprites, your like anything dealing with water or coastal, anything like that, that's where they ended up. Sylvae was mostly like the witches, because it's supposed to be like a like deciduous forest, so it's going to be more like your witches and stuff like that. And Enonis is more of a thicker woods, so that's going to be your werewolves, common creatures like your like dryads, satyrs, stuff like that. Then Mons is kind of a melting pot of everybody, but it's also a large population of the Divini because their leader was Divini. And then in Divite, it's more of the feared creatures, which are the Timuit. And so that's going to be your vampires, your wraiths, your chimeras, stuff like that. And so that is where the kind of like the diversity kind of breaks up. And then Mons is the overruling of all 5. So each 5 has their own king and queen, their own royal family, their own royal bloodline, but Mons kind of goes over all of them. So the king of Mons is king of Mons, but he's also king of Divinaterra and so on. So Orion is queen of Mons, so she's queen of Divinaterra. Can we not? And then the kind of classifications are called the communists, which are like the commons. So that's going to be your lichens, which are the werewolves, your merfolk, the nymphs, dryads, satyrs, banshees, sprites, pixies, brownies, and lesser fae. Then there are the Timuit, which are the feared, so vampires, wendigos, skinwalkers, minotaurs, chimeras, and wraiths. Then you have the venerandus, which are kind of like revered. That's going to be your divinus, or divini, the high fae, and witches. Then the rare, or they're called the infrequents, but they're rare, phoenixes, siphons, sirens, prophets, and griffins. Then you have the Vedas, which are like the ancients, which are like your demons, your angels, your vespers, hydras, dragons, gorgons. Then the creators, which are the divine, so your gods and goddesses. And then you've got the Obsularis, which are all your extinct. So as of right now, you know that the red caps and selkies are largely extinct, or so that's what is believed. More so with the Divini, you have each of them kind of gave up their own power from the gods. So like if you have a water potentia, which is what a power is. So like instead of saying a power or an ability, it's called a potentia, like potential. So if you are a water potential, you're an you got that from Poseidon. If you are earth-based, like Orion is, you got that from Demeter. Fire, Hephaestus. Healing, Artemis. Weather, Zeus. Electricity, Zeus. Compulsion, Hypnos. Telekinesis is from Dolos. Speed, Hermes. Emotions, Hypnos. Shadows and light is Nyx and Helos. Genetics is Proteus. Air is Hera, and so on. Like, you get the kind of point. Like, memory is Athena. And then you get the point from that. But if you know your Greek gods and goddesses, you'll be pretty set to go. It doesn't really make you have to think much. It's kind of already explained. And then each of your like potentias makes you a blank. So Orion is, and all of these are listed in the front. That's what the Divinity classifications is for. So that is all listed in the front. So if you see like it italicized and you don't really know what it means and it's referring to like a type of person, it's probably going to be in the front. That means they're a Divinity. So Orion has water, so she's an Unata. She also has earth, so that makes her a Terra. Pain manipulation is in Flinga, which is also Orion. And like Lyra, she's a Sano because she can heal. Artemis, which is her grandma, she has a memory thing, so she can't forget anything. It's an Oblatus. And electricity, which is Orion's main thing, is an Ignis. So all of that will be in the front. That's how you figure that part out. Moreover, I think it's important to understand that you can have hybrids and tribrids. So you can be both Divinity and Lycan. You can be Divinity and a witch. You can be Divinity and like Siren stuff, or merfolk and stuff like that. But it is important to know which. I explained it in Bane of Immortality just because it felt like I needed to explain something, and I realized I created a plot hole with that. So you can't be a Lycan and a witch. Those genes don't mesh because they're both natural magic, and they don't like to mix. But you can be Lycan and Divinity, you can be witch and Divinity, but you can't be Lycan and witch, if that makes sense. So that kind of explains Orion's heritage, just because her dad is a Lycan, mom is a witch. Dad didn't get the Divinity gene, but it skipped her generation it skipped his generation and came to Orion, which is something that often happens. But because Orion has specific traits, she can't be one or the other. Like, she's only one or the other, and you'll figure out. Or maybe she won't. I don't know. Maybe that's saying too much. Who knows? That's up for y'all to figure out. And then I think that's about it that I have on the lore for this part. Because it kind of just like lives up in my head, and I'm just trying to make sure I don't have any like plot holes. So let me just double check. Oh, wait. Okay. Never mind. I have a whole lot more. Disregard. So we'll talk about the Divine War. So the Divine War, started 150 years ago from when Burden of Divinity is set. This was a war between the divine creators due to infighting with their creations. Many of the darker creations, which were the Timuit, were revolting against the more favored creations. Due to fighting, the divine began to intervene. The wars began with the communists fighting with the Timuits. Many of the communists were creations of Artemis, Poseidon, Hera, Zeus, and Demeter. The Timuits were largely created by Hades, Hecate. You know who I'm talking about, I just can't speak. And Hermes. The communists believed that the Timuits were abominations which should be wiped out, and that is why they started fighting against them. So the reminder that is very important is the divine are easily slighted. Any insult to their creation is an insult to them. So divine retribution is not kind or merciful when you slight them. So in less than a few months of skirmishes, many of the Venerandus and the Infrequens joined sides, but the only issue is they split. So the High Fae, the Phoenix, and the Siphons sided with the communists, while the witches, sirens, griffins, and prophets sided with... Okay, sorry, battery died, did not account for that, so we had to shift a little bit. So, where were we? Okay, so they split in accordance to their creators. and they meaning the Infrequents and the Venerandus. So it should be noted that the Vedas refused to choose a side or become involved at this time, but there is heavy speculation that the demons and angels provided covert help. This has never been confirmed, but it probably never will be. So, seeing as there was an imbalance in their forces, the creators decided to bless the humans who chose to fight on their sides. These blessed humans would become known as the Divinists. There were hundreds of Divini who fought on both sides of the war based on their divine donor. So, the divine war lasted for at least 10 years according to the texts. The text meaning the scribbles in my good notes here, because I couldn't create plot holes. I was very dedicated to that. So records show a few of the Vedas took sides, but no single species of Vedas chose the same sides. It appears it depended on the individual. So, it appears none of the scholars could figure out any reasoning behind this. Maybe being Vedas got boring and they decided to fuck around and have fun in the war. I mean, if I existed for thousands of years, I probably would do that too. And I'm basically immortal. I'd fuck around and play in the war too. At the 10-year mark, the war showed no signs of stopping until a ceasefire was requested by the generals of the 5 factions. So these 5 factions were the Timuit, the Lycans, the Witches, the Merfolk, Nymphs, Sirens, and the lesser of the communists, Venerandus, Infrequents, and a large number of Divinis, which had some Lycans too. It seems even when fighting a common enemy, there were still divides, which is the 5 factions. So the Vedas refused the ceasefire and left soon after because they didn't want to stop having fun, apparently. These 5 generals met and deliberated for almost a week before reaching an agreement, which would later be known as the Treaty of Divinaterra. So in this treaty, several things were decided. 1. Clearly the communists and the Timuit could not get along in one kingdom, and as evident by the factions, neither could they do so with the Venerandus. Therefore, the land should be split into 5 kingdoms by the 5 factions. So, due to the 5th faction being a mixture of species, having a large population of Divinis, and having amassed the most power, it was agreed their new kingdom would be the ruling kingdom of the founded country. So that is how Mons became the ruling kingdom of Divinaterra. So, 3. All kingdoms would extend equality to all species, no matter their beliefs. 4. The land would be called Divinaterra to honor their creators. And 5. The treaty would become void if any kingdom attacked another, which is a very, very important thing to remember. So, Divinaterra was created and fully functioning 3 years after the Divine War. Scholars establish 3 PD as the year 3 post-Divine. It was called post-Divine due to the disappearance of the Divine after the war. It's rumored that creating so many of the Divinas weakened them, so they went into hiding to recover. Molded them to make a mess of a war and then vanish. But they're the gods. Come on now. So, Divinaterra split into the 5 factions kingdoms, which is Mons, Ananiz, Silvae, Mare, and Divite, which we already explained. Each kingdom had a capital with a ruling family elected by its people following the war. It was known that this would be the only vote, and then the crown would pass down through that family. Mons emerged as the ruling kingdom, located at the center of Divinaterra. It was also the largest kingdom. In every case, the family that was elected was that of the 5 generals who forged the treaty. So, Mons was King Lupin, Divite was King Damon, Silvae was Queen Elisandra, Mare was King Theseus, and then Ananiz was Queen Everin. Following the Divine War, Divinaterra existed for 100 years in peace. There was peace, equality, trade, and revelry. Never had there been such a peace that healed the land as those 100 years did. But, as we all know, all good things have to come to an end. So, the kingdom of Mons its capital is called Cortarum. It is the largest kingdom and is in the center of the country. The borders of Mons are the Corona Mountains, named for forming a circle of wooded peaks. It is largely comprised of mountains, rivers, and lush forest. it is said that Mons was once as diverse as its people. So Mons is home to the Divinis, or the Divini, Lycans, Dryads, Fae, Phoenix, and Griffins. Most High Fae returned to their motherland of Elysium, but others remained, though became reclusive due to heavy losses in the war. King Lupin had been the general of the mixed faction, though he was a Lycan. He was actually the first Lycan, created by Artemis Divine. That is important. King Lupin and his wife, Queen Wahaya, were the first Lycans. He was also often disagreed with Queen Everin due to her elitist views, which created a divide in the Lycans. Most followed Everin, but Lupin had loyalists due to being the first Lycan created by Artemis Divine. He ruled for roughly 46 years before he died peacefully, and the throne went to Conan and his wife Luna, which is his son. Then King Conan ruled for about 22 years before he decided he was done with the politics and passed the crown to his son, Tala. Before abdicating, he arranged the marriage of Tala and Ambrosia, great-grandmother. It was his final political play to forge a powerful bloodline by wedding the original Lycan line with Ambrosia, who is known as the strongest divinist since the Divine War. She was known as that because she was one of the first to carry more than one potentia, which was unheard of at that time. King Tala's reign was cut short at 20 years when he was killed during the First Blood War. His eldest son, Ajax, took the throne at 20. King Ajax was killed 9 years into his reign, and his wife, Artemis, which is grandma, ruled until their son, Atticus, which is Orion's dad, who was 4 at the time that his father died, came of age at 21. His death came in the Second Blood War. King Atticus ruled for 26 years until he passed his crown on to Orion. In the kingdom of Inanese, its capital is called Itril. It's known for rolling hills and plains. A few rivers cut through the land, and it is littered with small thickets and willow groves. Its people are comprised mostly of Lycans, with a few towns of humans, and these Lycans value blood status over everything, which is the elitist views. Queen Everin was the general of the Lycan faction, known to be ruthless and prejudiced. She believed Lycans to be superior due to their connection to the moon goddess, Artemis Divine. Her stance never wavered, despite the creation of the Divinis. Queen Everin only took in humans who were devoted to her and pure-blood aristocracy. There we go. I can speak. She felt slighted by the creation of the Divinis, though it is as Artemis Divine did not believe her Lycans were enough to win the war, so she kind of felt a little pissed off there. Queen Everin was among the original 20 Lycan pairs created by Artemis Divine, with her partner being King Sirius. The two of them reigned for 37 years, passing her throne to their son, Eryx Kalini. Eryx ruled with his wife Thalia for 26 years before his death in the First Blood War. The throne then passed to his son, Cato, and his wife Nera. Cato was hot-headed and devoted his power to avenging his father. In doing so, he got himself and Nera killed just 8 years into their reign. Though it was highly protested, his 16-year-old son, Edward Kalini, took the throne. He was forced to marry Amali, who was 18 at the time. Though their ascent to power was both tragic and controversial, their reign has lasted 26 years, and it is considered to be very successful and admirable. So Edward is still in power. That is Thaddeus' dad. He will be passing his throne to his son, Thaddeus, at the end of the next year. Or in the book, obviously. Not this year. The Kingdom of Sylvae, its capital is called Witchhelm. Its terrain is mostly lush forests and flowering meadows. There are several babbling brooks and a few wetlands. The biodiversity here is unmatched, giving all witch tethers channeling ability. So all of the witches have their tether, which is where they base their power from, since it is natural elemental magic. So like celestial tethers, water tethers, fire tethers, etc. Its population is comprised of witches and humans. The witches felt it to be their responsibility to protect the remaining human population after how they were treated as expendable pawns during the Divine War. Queen Alessandra and her husband Sol believed in creating their term limits to ruling, ending at 20 years unless exigent circumstances emerge. After the 20 years, the throne passed to their son Blaze. Blaze ruled for 24 years due to the First Blood War, so exigent circumstances. It then passed to his daughter Verena, as she was an only child. Verena married a cousin, Elias, during the Second Blood War. They ruled for 33 years. Due to the wars, their son Caden inherited the throne. Her long reign sparked rumors that her husband dabbled in blood magic to produce an heir after she suffered several unsuccessful pregnancies. Many believe her complications were due to magic punishing their inbreeding. Caden and his wife Katerina have ruled for 20 years. They will be hosting a set of trials to challenge their twin daughters. The winner will get the throne. Twins are rare in witch bloodlines, especially two girls. There are rumors that the twins are a punishment to Caden for his parents' use of blood magic. The Kingdom of Moray, its capital is called Cordelia, which you'll get that in book 2. Why I'm smiling, you'll understand. It is largely the coastline around the edge of Divinaterra, touching the Mare Canticum. It is known for its pure white sands, humidity, lagoons, crystal waters, and the constant echo of song. Several rivers cut through from the sea, curling into pockets of Everglades. Its population is predominantly merfolk and nymphs. There are a few sirens left, but most left in favor of colder, darker waters. Sirens and the merfolk had many differences in their lifestyles. With General Theseus being elected king and being a merfolk, this led to most sirens leaving. King Theseus had a very pleasant reign of 37 years before he chose retirement with his wife. He then passed the throne to his son, Demetrius. Demetrius ruled for 42 years, mostly due to waiting for a child. His first wife, Daciana, died in childbirth, and so did the child. He remarried to Bryn, who then gave him Atala and Asteria. He chose Atala to rule, ignoring Asteria's birthright. Not long after, Atala was crowned and married to Damaris Dracos, which is Atticus's brother, Atticus's sister, which makes her Orion's aunt. Asteria disappeared. Most believe her anger drove her mad. Others say she left to be with the sirens. Atala has ruled for 18 years. His daughter Antigone is set to inherit the throne when she turns 25. Princess Antigone is 18 as of right now. And Divite. So the capital is called Datus. The terrain is largely ravines and evergreen forests. It's vastly colder here, and there are several gorges and chasms along its border, but the terrain becomes less treacherous as you move inward into the kingdom. So its entire population is made of the Timuit. The vampires make up the largest portion of the population for obvious reasons. The largest portion of the population for obvious reasons. They created so many new bloods for the war, and that's why. Those who survived bred like rats. General Damon was the general of the faction and who was elected king, which came as no surprise. Damon was a vampire, which also solidified the vampire's power over all the other Timuits. He and his wife, Cressida, reigned for 61 years before they were slaughtered in the First Blood War. They enjoyed 61 years of peace and benevolence before they died. Reminder. They had 7 children, which are Ronan, Lilith, Briar, Thorn, Clarice, Kiernan, and Brom. And Ronan was the oldest, giving him the claim to the throne. Ronan ruled for 10 years before disappearing at the end of the Second Blood War following the death of his wife Caris and his first love Ambrosia. The throne fell to his unnamed son, who Ronan had kept in hiding to protect him during the war. This unknown son has ruled for 26 years in silence, so nothing has been heard from Divite since Ronan disappeared. Due to King Ronan starting the blood wars against Mons, the Treaty of Divinaterra was amended to exclude Divite since they broke the terms and violated the treaty. Divite has been silent since King Ronan disappeared, and nothing is known about the new king or the status of this kingdom. To put it plain and simple, Divinaterra acts as if Divite does not exist anymore. So, some important reminders. All witches have tethers. So, a witch tether is determined by the coven that they are born into. Witches rarely change their tether, for it requires severing one's connection to their original tether, which risks their magic. Sometimes the magic of their new tether rejects them, and the magic of their former tether refuses to allow them coming back, leaving them magicless. The true number of tethers is unfathomable. There we go. As magic lives in everything. Most common are elemental tethers who pull magic from the earth, air, water, and fire. Next are celestial tethers bound to the stars, moon, and planets. Nothing could ever come between a witch's tether. Magic is fickle, and magic has a cost, and always demands balance. My throat is getting dry, so we're going to take a small drink break. Also, reminder, blood magic and undead magic is forbidden, strictly. Magic does not tolerate greed, nor does it like being cheated. It will have consequences, so don't fuck around and find out. There's a couple different spells in here, but they're Latin based, so when you come across them, they're pretty easy to figure out what it is. So like in Burden of Divinity, we see Aspectu, which is sight. So this spell allows anyone it is cast on to see through the charms holding whatever it is hiding. So this is the Latido, so it makes you able to see the Latido. A blood oath is different from blood magic. It sounds like it's supposed to be forbidden, but it is lesser and involves one personal lifeblood, not somebody else's. Forbidden blood magic includes tampering with one's blood for gain. A blood oath is simply to ensure loyalty. Magic feeds off of loyalty, which is how such a vow does not fall into forbidden areas of magic. This vow is considered archaic and extreme. To put it simply, you break the vow, you die. So it's unbreakable, unless you want to die. So, though the Fae are not as common in Divinaterra, know what not to do so you don't offend them. So, they're extremely vain and prideful. They value honesty and loyalty. Betray one, and you'll know what true wrath feels like. And good luck trying to earn that trust back, by the way. Always speak with honesty. Lies are not tolerated. Never make a bargain with them. They'll make sure to fuck you over. No favors either. Never find yourself in debt to one. They'll own you. Never use their real name if they give it to you. It's a test, one you do not want to fail, and gifts should be extravagant. Things that Nova, who is a Fae, has taught Orion that I kind of wrote down as like her teaching, like Nova's teachings. Wear rowan berries to avoid glamours. No bargains, deals, or trades. Never use a trod, which is a path created by anyone but Nova and Nox. So it could be a path to Elysium, it could be a path to somewhere else, or it could be a path to like a bad place. It doesn't, you don't know because you don't know that Fae, you don't know what that Fae intended. Unseelie are not your friends. They follow what benefits them. Nova is exempt due to pledging her loyalty with a blood oath, so Nova is an Unseelie. It's rare for Unseelies to give their honor, so it's regarded as a high, or give their loyalty, so it's regarded as a high honor. Don't drink Fae wine, just don't. Salt and silver are weapons. Do not give a Fae your full name ever. Never go to Elysium, you won't come back. High Fae are like royalty, be sure to treat them as such. Don't touch wings, they are fragile, and the dust is an addictive drug to non-Fae. Never allow yourself to be in a position where you could owe a life debt. Life debts are when you owe your life to someone for doing something to save you. So what does that mean? It means literally anything. Once it's claimed, it must be filled. So they can literally ask anything of you. You can try to avoid completing it, but the magic will compel you to complete it. So you'll fulfill that debt, whether you want to or not. There is no escaping it. And there is not a time limit on when it can be claimed. It can be claimed immediately or years later. They can ask for your firstborn child, they can ask for your hand in marriage, they can ask for your liver, whatever. soulmates can exist in this world, but they are very, very rare, and I don't have much to share on that. Oh, a big important thing with the Divinity is that they are not like overpowered or OP. So there are limits to their power, and if you use your power too much, you can strain yourself, and that's called Excura, which is burnout. So basically, if I am Orion and I use my power too much, I could reach burnout, which could literally kill me. So, don't. And there's a cost to everything, so using your power, like, costs you something. So you see it a lot with Orion with, like, muscle tightness, or, like, the saliva in her mouth evaporates when she uses her water. Stuff like that. There's always a cost. Nothing is free in magic. I think that's all I have for this one. I think that's all I can really give you on lore. That's like what's been inside my brain when I was writing these. My cat knocked that over, so. But that's really all I can give. He kind of broke my tripod, so I'll have to fix that. But that's about all I really have lore-wise. That's kind of like the basis of everything I write, is that lore. I try to make sure I didn't make any plot holes, but if I did, please call me out on them. I'll try to fix them or try to amend them the best I can. And yeah, so I think the next video I'll do is like a character deep dive. We'll probably do Orion first and then move on from there, but I think that is all I have on the lore side. Looks like my tripod's staying up now. So I have on the lore side, this is still out for your purchase. Thank you to everybody who has just newly bought it, by the way. You guys are adding to my sales, which I'm very, very thankful for. I'm still chugging through editing Bane of Immortality. It's been in process. It's just, I've read it so much recently that I kind of like getting tired of it, so I'm trying to push through it to get it done, but hopefully I'll get it done by the middle of this month. That's my goal, mid-November. It's my hard line I'm setting for myself. I'm also deciding if I want to do a pre-order or just straight release it like I did with Burden. Probably going to just straight release it because I'm super excited and I don't want to make people wait. But yeah, I think that's all I really have. So just let me know what you want to hear, what you want to see. If I didn't explain things clearly, if you got questions, you got thoughts, leave them in the comments. You can also find me on Instagram at Song of Orion. I post updates, sort of. It's my life there, all the fun stuff, like. But yeah, that's about all I got. This is kind of the awkward part where I don't know what to say, but bye.